Good evening, guys. Hi, hope everybody is doing well out there. It's Rob back for another roundup of finds from the last couple of weeks. Um, pretty much the same as last time, really. A sort of even or fairly even split of finds from my record shop that I go to. Of course, SJ Records, and also a few online finds as well. So yeah, just the usual that you've come to kind of expect, really. Of course, a mixed bag. Bit of kind of baroque, bit of psychedelia, bit of electronic, bit of 90s pop and sort of punk as well. So all sorts, really. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, this is actually this first one is a brand new release that I knew the artist. I know Dale Gatefold 33 has shown a few of this guy's records. He's quite a fan. This is a brand new one that he literally only released, I think, last week, and it was on Facebook, and it was. I assume that it's his latest single, but I actually went onto the link onto the site, find the name of the album, and listened to it, and just decided that I definitely want this record. So okay, this is Matt Berry's latest. Sorry about the glare. And this is the Blue Elephant. So Matt Berry, yeah, for those not familiar with him, he's was a TV sort of comic comedian actor turned musician and songwriter, and yeah, he's very very accomplished musician. Writes some really truly great songs. Covers a lot of different themes with his albums. He's got a very broad taste in music, but particularly I think the music of the late 60s and the 70s, like sort of folk, and so on, of which he's done several albums over the last sort of 10, 11 years. This is a kind of, I'd say this is kind of modern psychedelia. And yeah, it's wonderful. He plays all the instruments himself, has written everything, and it's produced and engineered by himself as well, which is an amazing accomplishment. The only thing that he doesn't play is the drums and percussion, which is a gentleman by the name of Craig Blundell. But yeah, I mean, you just read down the back of all the instruments that he's playing, and it's like reading the back of Tubular Bells or something. You know, we got acoustic guitar, electric guitar, 12-string guitar, Nashville guitar, bass guitar, acoustic piano, Wurlitzer, electronic piano, Mellotron, Hammond organ, Farfisar organ, Vox Continental organ, ARP 2000 synth, SCI Prophet 6 synthesizer, Mini Moog, Glockenspiel. Yeah, you get the gist. There's all sorts on this, and he just kind of weaves it into a fantastic kind of modern psychedelic kind of soup. The first track, Abroad, is almost my favorite. It's an instrumental. It's just brilliant, wonderful, and sets the album up really well. The second track is Summer Sun, which, as I say, I think is the single. Very upbeat, very sort of reminiscent of classic kind of late 60s psychedelia. Now Disappears, great as well. Um, yeah, the title track, The Blue Elephant. I've already played it a couple of times. I only got this 3 days ago, so I'm kind of still kind of absorbing it. But it's even if you're not already a Matt Berry fan, I would recommend this. It's a really good listen. Okay, I was also lucky enough to have sort of first dibs on a sort of kraut rock electronic collection that Ben had bought. So I did kind of get a couple well, more than a couple, two or three from there. Yeah, these are ones that I kind of enjoyed. There was a lot in there, and obviously I couldn't afford to buy it all, so I just kind of selected the stuff that I wanted. The first one's one that an artist that I already liked anyway, and yeah, this is a really nice copy. This is an original on Virgin of Stuntman, Edgar Froese. So this is the main man from Tangerine Dream, of course. Yeah, just look at this cover. It's kind of Daft Punk, sort of 20 years before. Fantastic graphics. Yeah, and this is lovely. I've always loved the title track of this. It's a really beautiful piece of music. And yeah, I mean, it's very Tangerine Dream-esque, as you'd expect. Came with the original inner sleeve, and yeah, this was actually in a shrink wrap as well. So, but it was starting to kind of kink a bit on the edges, and you've got to be careful with that, because sometimes when that gets a bit old, it can tend to stick to the album. And I've made the mistake when it starts to crack of peeling it off, and it kind of rips the paper from the sleeve. So you've got to kind of watch out with that. But yeah, really really lovely original copy of that. I'm glad to pick that up. Okay, this was an artist that I wasn't hitherto familiar with. So this is one of another one from the German collection. This is, I believe, this is his fifth album, from what I can gather, and this is the artist Deuter, and this is his album Ecstasy. So this is from 1979. Yeah, and this is a kind of mixture of sort of extended guitar pieces. He also plays synthesizer and flute. And yeah, sort of, it's kind of very new agey, ambient, Windham Hillish, possibly. But yeah, really relaxing, very, very nice listen. Yeah, it didn't, it won't blow your world or anything, but it's enjoyable, and he's a great musician, and yeah, just a nice one for chilling out and late night. Okay, the other one that was in there was one to complete the first three David Vorehouse albums, which are the two I've acquired fairly recently. This is his second album. This is White Noise 2. So this is Concerto for Synthesizer. This is David Vorehouse again, sort of technical wizard on the keyboards and synthesizers, quite groundbreaking. Obviously, the first album, Electric Storm, is a classic. On Island, this is obviously, this is a label jump, so this one was actually on Virgin. So with the 70s Virgin label there. And yeah, I'd say out of the first three Electric Storm re-entry, this is probably my least favorite. But yeah, it's sort of it's not that melodic, and it's kind of a bit meandering in places. There's parts which are quite nice. I think probably it's the one out of the first three albums that I was kind of the least familiar with. So I think I need to give it a few more listens. But yeah, nice to have it anyway, and just a minty copy as well. So glad to get that. Okay, going into back into the late 60s now. A couple of kind of psych classics, I guess. although this one probably a little bit more obscure, perhaps. This is a reissue of Harumi's first album. So this is Harumi. He was a Japanese artist, vocalist and guitarist, um, and hooked up with producer Tom Wilson, who's obviously famous for working with sort of Dylan and Frank Zappa, Velvet Underground, and Simon Garfunkel et al. And yeah, not an awful lot is kind of documented about this album. Um, very little about the actual recording of it. But yeah, it's really really nice. It's a double album, and it's kind of an album of kind of two halves. So the first album, show the gatefold. So yeah, the first album is all kind of shorter songs. It's probably my favorite out of the two records. Just he's got a great voice. It's kind of soul-y, with a sort of psychedelic feel. Really upbeat. Yeah, wonderful. He does a version of he did the original of Caravan, which was re-recorded by the Rotary Connection, which was actually the first version that I heard, and I didn't actually appreciate that this guy wrote it. So yeah, but it's great. The second record is two long pieces, a side a piece. The one is a sort of very kind of sprawling spoken piece with kind of effects and strange sort of sounds going on in the background, which is kind of a little bit meandering, a bit goes on a bit. But the side two is where he's actually singing and speaking in Japanese, and apparently some of his family members are accompanying him on it as well. And that's a bit more upbeat and has a bit more to it. So yeah, but yeah, overall enjoyable, and yeah, I think I'm certainly the second record. I need to give that a few more listens, but yeah. Okay, next one was one that when Ben showed me a picture of it initially, my heart stopped because I thought it was an original. So this is the United States of America. Yeah, I've been after a copy of this for several years because it's been out of print. This is actually the Sundays reissue, which kind of reissues the kind of the original bag, which was kind of more brown paper bag that the original came in, housing the actual record itself. I'm sure this is a very well-known album. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this. So yeah, this is Joseph Byrd and Dorothy Moscovich, who basically were the principal songwriters of this. This is a kind of experimental electronic album, sort of in the vein of Electric Storm, White Noise, but in some ways it's kind of more on the whole more accessible, I'd say, possibly. It's got its weird and far out moments, but obviously that's what kind of makes it interesting. So yeah, I mean, but just some great songs. I mean, there's no guitar on this, so everything that you hear is violin, bass, drums, and sort of tape effects, early kind of proto synths, I guess. Very experimental, and the only album that they ever did. But certainly, by the evidence of the stuff on here, it would have been a very tough act to follow. Highlights for me, probably the Garden of Earthly Delights. I love Cloud Song. Yeah. The American Way of Love, last track's great as well. and the beautiful love song for the dead Shay. But it's just fabulous on that reproduce, that kind of Columbia label. So great to finally get a classic psych album like that in my collection. Really pleased. Okay, next couple are some 90s reissues. This is one James Griffith showed the other night, and I thought, where do you get that from? Because this is an album that I've loved for years. I did have it on CD at one stage, and don't think it was ever issued on vinyl. If it was a very small run, and I should think original copies are virtually impossible to find. So this is World Party's third album, Bang. World Party, essentially this is Carl Wallinger, who was in the Waterboys, and this is his kind of project. The first album, Private Revolution, I've had for several years, but even that is quite scarce to find. Then the second album, Goodbye Jumbo, I've never seen that in the wild either, but I think maybe that's been reissued as well. So the original cover was kind of Carl's head that was kind of exploded, as a sort of as a bust kind of thing. But it was much better than this kind of cheap cartoon kind of motif. But I think the back cover was pretty faithful to the original from what I can remember. But who cares? It's a fantastic record. It's all about the music at the end of the day. And what an album this is. The single, Is It Like Today? Fantastic. The other single I think was Sooner or Later. Sunshine's lovely kind of Hendrixy kind of feel there. I mean, he's clearly, he loves the kind of classic 60s sort of music, particularly Beatles and so on. He just, it's quite derivative in a way, but the songwriting is of such a high quality that you can't help but be enamored by it, and it's amazing. And this is a really good. It's really well produced. I believe he does have a band and tours, but I think he plays quite a lot of the instruments himself. So he's a kind of multi-instrumentalist. Still touring, I believe, or he would be, I suppose, if there wasn't for COVID. I think he was quite ill for a while, and was out of action for about 10 years. I think I think he did come back a couple of years ago and came out with a new album, which I haven't heard. Anyway, so this has been reissued, and I'd recommend anybody who hasn't heard this or has heard it but never got an original vinyl copy. Great, now's your opportunity to get a copy. So thanks James for giving me the heads up on that. Okay, the next one is another early 90s record that I was aware of this band because I know that Kurt Cobain was a big fan of these. I believe he played a couple of the songs on the Unplugged album, which obviously I was very familiar with. So this is the Scottish band the Vaselines, and this is Dum Dum. This is a reissue of their 1992 album. Fantastic. Just really good fun, sort of punky kind of very upbeat, quirky songs. Great songwriting. Just short, to the point songs. Fabulous. Really entertaining. Really enjoyed this one. And this is actually on clear vinyl. It's quite nice. And yeah, just nice to get that in the collection. Yeah, so if you like, you kind of you sort of punky, pixiesy kind of stuff, definitely recommend the Vaselines. Okay, now the last one, completely different, is a collection compilation album that yeah, Ben got from a collection. This was actually sealed, so it was brand new. And yeah, it's a double album of the English Baroque sound. This is Tea and Sympathy. So there are other compilations out which are very similar to this. This one was on Ace Records. I believe this came out. Sorry, losing the light a bit there. When did this come out? Try and look at the label. I'll show you the label while I'm looking for the date. So this is a kind of marbled, sort of light blue kind of effect. Kind of very feminine, I suppose. Yeah, and it's just lovely. It's a collection, a double album, collection of kind of English Baroque artists and singles, one-offs, stuff that you just wouldn't, you'd be very, very hard pushed to find, and would be very rare and expensive. Not all of it. I mean, there's some classic artists on here. You've got Colin Blunstone, Say Don't Mind. Who else is there? Please Believe Me by Nirvana. I would imagine that's Nirvana, the Rainbow Chaser Nirvana. Ray Brooks Pictures. Can't Let Maggie Go, Honey Bus. Their first album's absolutely brilliant. If you get to hear that. There's also an interesting song called Forever Autumn by Vigrass and Osborne, which is actually written by Jeff Wayne. So I'm sort of tipping that that's maybe an early version of the song that Justin Hayward sung on War of the Worlds. It would be too much of a coincidence if it wasn't. Mike Sedgwick, we've got Christopher, The Bliss, Tandem, John Plum, yeah, all sorts on here. So quite a lot of stuff I'd never heard before. But yeah, you can stream them all. I think that the version that was actually uploaded onto YouTube was an amalgamation of this album. Thinking about it now, this was now amalgamation of this record and another compilation and individual singles. So because I didn't have the original track listing, so I was kind of just picking off ones that I kind of recognised, that I could see that were on this one. So, but yeah, so fantastic English Baroque sound, shunned guitar solos for string quartets and woodwind, drenched in summer into autumn melancholy and never far away from the charts of the late 60s and early 70s. It was informed by Paul McCartney's Eleanor Rigby and For No One, the Zombies, Odyssey and Oracle, and the chamber pop of the Bee Gees and Scott Walker. Just add a harpsichord, a pot of tea, and a ginger cat on the windowsill. So there you go. How can you possibly resist from an endorsement like that? So yeah, but really, really nice to have anyway. Add to the comp and to add to the collection. So yeah, just show you the inner, which shows got sort of descriptions of all the artists, and shows you the original labels as well, which is always nice. So have some nice graphics and a bit of info as well. So yeah, really, really pleased with all those. So that's about it, guys. So yeah, I hope everybody's doing well out there. I've decided to put my t-shirt on because sod it, I'm going to pretend that it's summer, even though it's only about 9 degrees outside. So yeah, I'm going to buzz off now anyway and leave you all in peace. So yeah, I'm off on holiday next week. So off up to Bournemouth, Scotland, up into the Trossachs, which should be nice. So I've been there a few times. A place called Timor, or Timor, I think it's pronounced. So yeah, hopefully get some decent weather and yeah, have a chill out. And if I don't do a video in the meantime, I'll see you guys when I get back. All right. Hope you all have a great rest of the weekend, and let's hope for some better weather soon. Cheers, guys. All the best. Take care. Bye bye.